Hello everyone, it is Christine here and it's so lovely to have you in my virtual craft room. Welcome to week 3 of our stitch along where we are stitching these very sweet little hexagons which many of us will be making into project mats for our craft desks. Others are turning them into throws or quilts or table toppers, even a play mat for a baby. The possibilities are endless. While this is a stitch along, I've created it so it's a very free space where you can take the ideas and the inspiration and take them in whatever direction you want to. So there is no mandated product that you need to be working towards. There is no mandated size. There's no requirements for what you put on your hexes. They're your hexes. I have shared various vintage slow stitching designs and I'll be, or embroidery designs, vintage embroidery designs, and I'll be sharing a lot more as we go through the project. And people are sharing lovely ones as well in our Slow Stitching Friends Facebook group. So I'm sharing inspiration and I'm also showing you other ways you can create pieces for your hexagons, like what we created last week, which was a little applique flower. I'll also be showing you how you can make miniature hexagons down the track, how you can use vintage doilies, etc. How you can stitch into fabrics and add embellishment, etc. Today I'm going to be focusing on how you can take these very sweet little cross-stitch style designs from the vintage embroidery designs and make sweet little stitch pieces like this butterfly. Now this butterfly was taken from this design, but I decided to add 2 extra crosses to make the wings come down because I quite like those butterfly wings that are a bit more elongated. Often they're the blue butterfly. I've forgotten what type of butterfly it is. On this piece, I'm not sure how well you can see, I also did some sweet little rosebuds with French knot and then did some little Y stitches down below them, which I'll show you. I've made a note to remind myself to show you how I do that. I think I'll add them to another piece that we'll be stitching in today's video. So I'll just move my pieces of hexagons out of the way. If you're watching this video when it is premiering, so showing for the first time, you'll be able to join the live chat below the video. Make sure you're not in the general comment section. There should be a section that says live chat or chat. When you get into it, click the settings up the top and make sure it's showing all messages. Often it just defaults to what it calls top messages, so it seems to be a bit selective about what gets included. So that's a place where the community can chat while this video is showing. If you haven't found us also on Facebook, we have our Slow Stitching Friends Facebook group, which is where people are sharing what they're creating, where I'm sharing the resource sheets and the info, etc. All the information about the project is in the description below this video, so you can check that out after the video has finished. So yeah, there's lots of beautiful little cross-stitching designs in the designs I've already released. I think the cherry design is too small. I'll probably work a bit on altering that image for a future stitch along and try and maybe make it a bit bigger, or sorry, for a future week when I show a design. But at the moment I think that is a bit small because I had to shrink it on to get it down to the size that would fit on a small hexagon. So as I mentioned, I've already stitched this design, which I just did with cross stitches, and then I thought I'd have a go at designing up some of my own designs because I had this graph paper and I thought it would be fun to do my own version of a butterfly with sort of two wings on each side. And I thought a heart would be quite an easy shape as well, and that's where I'm thinking I'll do my little rosebud designs in the heart and probably around it, I think, so something similar to what I did around the outside of this one. So what I did with this was I drew my hexagon shape onto it, so I knew what size I had to stay within, and then using my friction marker, which was actually quite handy because you can then rub out any of the pieces. So let me just show you. So these markers are raised with heat but also friction, that's why they're called friction markers. Oops, and it's because I'm on paper and it's a bit bobbly. Let me go onto a surface where I'm not going to damage the paper. Let's go on here. You can generally rub it out without rubbing through. Obviously if you rub on fabric that's a bit soft, it will try and rub itself through, but it otherwise works quite well to to rub out. So what I've done with these is drawn them on here, and I'll share these designs in the Slow Stitching Friends Facebook group, and then I've transferred the designs just onto a piece of old sheet. I keep my old sheets when they're starting to wear out and use them as little stitching bases. So I thought we could stitch both of these in today's episode. What I'm also thinking is once the butterfly is done, I'm going to put it on this fabric which I hand painted. So this fabric came just as a very, well, it looks quite plain. It's a plain white fabric. I'm not sure if you can see, it has sort of like an embossed design on it, but it's a little bit hard to see, and I was curious whether adding colour to it would really sort of bring the embossed design out of it. And so I used my Inktense paint set and had a bit of a play on the weekend, I think it was, and I'm really pleased with how the pieces have worked out. And I thought at the end of this video, for those that are interested, I'll show you just how the Inktense blocks work and how I paint the fabric. You could definitely also use it just on regular sheet fabric as well. And it just might be a fun option if you do happen to have Inktense blocks or pencils available to you. I think you could also do it just like with a watercolor set or something like that. The problem is that might not be sort of color fast. The good thing with Inktense is once they are activated, then the color with water, so when you add water to them and fully dissolve the pigments, they then set on the fabric and you won't get residue coming off. So I thought that might be a bit of fun to do at the end, but let's get into doing our stitching. And the other thing I was going to say is if you have some old graph paper or some old sort of grid paper at home, you could definitely have a play at doing your own designs. You could, for example, do an initial, I was thinking I might do a T for Travis our Labrador, or I might try and come up with a little sort of Labrador shape. There's already a little animal here. I think that's more it's hard to know if it's a cat or, oh no, I guess that would be a dog, wouldn't it? Bit hard to tell whether it's a cat or a dog. Let me know what you think. But you could definitely design up your own designs. So I'm going to pop my sheet piece into the hoop, and I've left enough border around it. This is like a stand that sits on my desk, which hopefully helps me to stay in shot when I am stitching. And I'm just going to tighten it up. I'll bring you down a little bit just so I can see exactly what you can see. Just make sure we've got enough light. I think that should be fine. I'll just gather up this end and just put a clip around it just so I don't kind of get it caught on anything while I am stitching, although I don't want this piece to be crinkly actually, so no, maybe I'll roll it up. Give it a little roll. Because I can't iron it till I finish it, because otherwise it will start to unravel itself. So if you're in the live chat while this is premiering, feel free to ask any questions. You can obviously, after the video has premiered, you can watch this video at your leisure and ask whatever questions you want in just the regular comments section. So I think I'm going to use some of my lovely Wonderful thread. It's quite luminescent, and I thought I might like to make one of those sort of, bluey coloured butterflies. This thread can be a little bit finicky, so I never put too much on a needle at a time because it does unravel a bit at ends. So let's see if we can thread it first time for the win. And we'll try and do our knot. So I hope you are having a beautiful start to the weekend if you are in Australia, and it's probably quite early for you. Likewise for New Zealand, although you're a bit ahead of us in time, aren't you? And then if you're overseas in Europe, it will be just Friday evening. America, Friday. It's still Friday there as well. So actually I'll start over here because I'll do the body in a different colour. So I do need to probably just make this a smidge tighter. Just tighten the fabric up a little bit because it'll just make it easier when I'm stitching. It's nice and tight. That's better. I know some people when they're doing cross stitch, they go all in one direction, put all the crosses in and then come back and cross them. I find it easier, just my brain finds it easier to do it as I go. So that's how I'm going to do it, but you do it whatever way you prefer, particularly when you're doing a smaller design like the one on here. It was definitely easier to be crossing them as I go, because otherwise I would have lost the markings a little bit under the thread. So that's just a tip. A tipperoozy. I might just roll this side up a little bit as well. Just make sure we are in focus. And as you can see, my crosses aren't like 100% sort of even, and I will be ironing it afterwards to remove any of the friction marker that we can still see, but I think it should be pretty a-okay. So for these bigger cross stitch designs, yeah, sort of a thickness of this thread, which is like a perle, would work. If you were doing a really fine one, you might want to go down to just a couple of strands of embroidery floss or a regular sewing cotton, maybe doubled over. If it was a really fine cross stitch designs, it's amazing some of the ones you get on vintage embroideries. They are sometimes incredibly fine. I hope you won't find this too dull watching the cross stitching, but it'll give us a chance to have a lovely chat in the live chat for those joining the premiere. And hopefully you might be, if you're watching it back, you might be stitching along. You can just grab a bit of sheet, pop into our Slow Stitching Friends Facebook group and get the design and stitch away. Just making sure that I don't have a knot underneath. So I think I'll keep most of these around the sort of hour mark, unless we finish early, but I've got a bit to get through today, so I think it will probably end up being an hour. Obviously, if you need to head off to things or head off to bed or head off anywhere, that is a-okay. As I say, the video will be available after the premiere. The premiere is just really something I've set up because it is such fun to get together with stitchy friends and have a bit of a chat. It's always so interesting hearing about all the different weather around the world. When we've been having stinking hot weather, it's been snowing in England. So, yeah, it really is. And then, yeah, our friends thinking about all those that might be impacted by bushfires here in Victoria, by floods in Queensland, and no doubt by other challenges elsewhere in the world. So this is a variegated thread. It's a funny thread because it kind of sits a bit crooked until you've sort of pulled it tight. Like you can see it's sort of bending a bit in that stitch, but as I pull it tight, it will then sit sort of, yeah, flat. Pop up here. What I might do, just thinking I might pop from this one over to the other side and then come round, I think. Because I think it'll be, I suppose I can come down because it will be at least in the line of where the stitching is, so it shouldn't show through too much. Yeah, I can probably just pop down here, actually, it will be fine. I like using the variegated thread because you just get that nice little bit of, change in colour as you go. It's interesting seeing the design sort of transform as you start to stitch into it. Hopefully it looks like a butterfly when we're finished. Certainly look like a butterfly on paper, so we'll see how we go. But for someone who's I'm not a great drawer, I'm kind of impressed that I came up with my own little butterfly and heart shape. But again, have a play, see what shape you might want to come up with for this week. But at least the designs will be there if you want to follow one of the existing designs as well, or maybe do both, or do all of them. Because we've got some folks that are just, we do joke in the Slow Stitching Friends group that this is all a bit addictive. I could happily make hexagons every day, I think, but I wanted to make the project not too pressured on folks. I thought one a week is a bit of a suggestion, but it's in no way mandated. If you only want to do one a month, or if you only want to do a couple of hexagons, it's absolutely fine. And because each hexagon is kind of its own little finished piece within itself, it's actually the perfect project, because whatever you do, you'll have some finished pieces, and it's just how many finished pieces you want to kind of join together to make a bigger piece, if that's what you want to do. But they'd make very sweet little coasters, or little gifts for friends if you wanted to just leave them as individual little pieces. So we'll need to tie that off on the back. Tying it off, I can never show it that well on the video because it's a bit of a weird angle in the little embroidery hoop. So I'll just cut that thread off. Hopefully it's tight enough on the front. Yep. So that was just on the right amount of blue thread. So I'll try and get close again. And then we'll come in and do the middle. Sometimes this thread is a bit annoying to thread as well. As you can see, it sometimes tries to sort of untwine itself and sort of separate out a little bit. So some people hate stitching with this thread, but I love it for the colours, so I'll keep using my stash. I think when I first got it, I fell so in love with all the vibrant colours. I thought, oh, I'll buy some more, some repeat straight away. But I've been good, shown restraint. I figure I need to start using up some of the things in my stash before I add too many new supplies in. I still get second-hand supplies when I find them at op shops and things that might be things that I think I won't find again. But if I'm buying something new that's likely to sort of be staying on the market, I can show a bit of restraint. But I must admit, the colourful things, they always get me. And the variegated things, my lovely friend Martha, I don't know if she'll be joining us from these stitch-alongs, but we used to joke we should have variegated anonymous, because we loved the variegated threads. So hello Martha, if you happen to be watching even after the premiere. Still got a lovely dog toy that Martha sent me all the way from the United States for lovely Travis to have. Such a caring stitching community. We had a lovely turnout last week for our live chat. It's kind of funny because I do film these obviously ahead of time so that I can join you in the live chat when it's happening. So yeah, by the time this is playing, I will be in a chat with you and I'll know who is there. I am planning to make this week's one half an hour later, at special request of my dear friend Christy, but also for other folks in Australia where it is a bit earlier. When I started at 7:30, it's a bit early in parts of, I think it's 4:30 in Western Australia, whereas Christy's usually up around 5, I think, and so I thought I'll start at 8 o'clock and see if that's a little bit better. And I understand, obviously, if the time doesn't work for you, no expectation at all that you have to join the premieres. It's really just something I wanted to create for community to be able to connect. So it's been nice temperate weather this week after all the crazy extreme weather and extreme heat of last week, and the heat and the winds that exacerbated the bushfires. It's good. I think they're getting some good gains on some of the fires. Just so sad seeing the stories of loss of people who've lost houses, animals, but also, yeah, loss of life where that occurred as well. It's just so tragic. So yeah, definitely thinking of those impacted. Do I want to do that one down to about there maybe? Some of my crosses are a little bit wild and woolly, we might say. It's okay. Going for time, yep. But yeah, I thought it might be fun to show you the painting on fabric. I do have some other videos on it, which if I remember, I will pop in the description box below this video as well. I show how you can paint threads and laces and crochet pieces. I've painted pieces and used them for dimensional coral reefs, rock pools, etc. Inspired by the amazing Fleur Wood, who's an amazing textile artist. Hopefully I'm staying in focus. I better click again, and I was trying to click my piece. Nope, you need to click the screen, Christine. Imagine touchscreen embroidery. I don't want that. I just want embroidery that feels like embroidery. It's so annoying seeing all these AI generated embroidery designs these days. It's just really sad because people are buying them thinking that they'll end up with a piece that looks like what AI is generating as the design, and they're often things that just can't be done in stitch, and unfortunately people are being duped in the process. That's why I also like this project, because sharing the vintage embroidery designs for free hopefully gives you lots of things that you can stitch without the need to buy any particular designs, etc. Because I've released a huge batch already, and I'll be continuing to sort of gather them up as we go through the project. Probably every few months I'll put out another release of embroidery designs. I also shared in the Facebook group this week about the Briggs as part of an online embroidery resource. Check the featured posts in the Slow Stitching Friends group if you missed that one, because that should be in there. Oops, nope, I don't want to do the bottom, because that's going to be the little sort of bit that comes up the body. Now, where are we down the bottom? Where have I come with that thread? Which is that thread? Where is the thread that I just came across with? Where is that thread come from? Ah, there we are. Okay, we'll just have to rethread. So yeah, all of that will be done in a different colour, because it will be the body of the butterfly. See that's what happens when you're having fun and stitching away. If you're anything like me, you've probably been in the car on an occasion and stitched your dress. Now I'm just going to pass the thread back through the stitches I have to come up to where my other stitches are, just so I don't end up with sort of thread showing through the middle where I don't want the blue thread to show. I'll probably back this piece with an extra piece of sheet once I'm done, just to make sure that it isn't see-through onto the base piece that sits on. It depends, I suppose. If I don't mind, like if I was actually, let me just have a think. If I was putting this one underneath, it would actually be okay if it showed through, because I don't know if you can see just a little bit of the colour. So yeah, I really should have probably done these two ones. I think I would have been better to start maybe at that point. But I'm sure you can work out where you want to start your design and finish it. Hope we're not getting too much sort of changing light. Let me just see if I can move my other lighter a little bit closer to just give us a bit more consistent light, hopefully. do that, maybe that will be better. Just thinking where can I put it so the light will be a bit better. Not sure whether that's actually improving things or not. Let's see. Okay, so that's all our blue done, so we'll just tie that off underneath. I'll go back to where one of my stitches were and just put the knot in. As I say, this thread can be a bit slippery, so I will just want to make sure it's well knotted underneath. So I think one of my starting stitch, oh no, there's still a knot there. I thought something had come out, but it was just tucked under something. So now we can do the middle of our butterfly, and I can either do it with this thread or with my goldy sort of coloured thread. No, I don't think the gold will go with the blue, so I think I'll stick with the same one that I used for my other butterfly body. I'll probably need, oh, maybe that'll be enough. Maybe, no, I don't think that will be enough. I'll save that for another project and get a slightly longer piece. I keep these pins on, or these clips on the end, because otherwise it's a very slippery thread, so it tries to come off the reel. Okay. So maybe I should actually move you up a little bit. Maybe the light will stop going in and out if you're a bit higher up. We shall see. It's all trial and error when you're filming in different, daylight versus evening. I do just have a very basic setup, just a phone that I'm filming on and just a light above the desk and then that little light to the side and the light in the room. So in our new house in regional Victoria, which we hope to be starting building this year once we get the planning permit, that was one of the things in my studio. I've made sure there's plenty of overhead lights so that I can have really good overhead lighting as well. And plenty of PowerPoints too. That's something that Alex, my partner, has definitely made sure we have in all of the rooms. Because it's one of those things that if you don't sort of add it when you're building, you definitely regret later if you don't have enough connections. But it's all the things that you kind of only learn. Luckily Alex has built before, so he has had the benefit of learning all the things. I'm just going to turn it a bit just because I've got this fabric sort of folded up at this end, and it'll be easier if I can kind of hold it out of the way. I'll be able to go a bit faster. You should probably think I'm going at a glacial pace. What movie was that out of? That was Devil Wears Prada, wasn't it? Oops, why is that? There must have been a little knot or snag on the back, and I could tell because the thread was sort of buckling. So again, this is a variegated thread, the Wonderfeel Razzle threads. So Wonderfeel Razzle 50 yards, rayon thread, and I got this as a set with lots of different variegated threads in it. And I've definitely made good use out of it because I've gone at least halfway through some of the rolls. So I used a lot of it when we were doing our earlier stitch along for the A to Z of embroidery. Again, all those videos are available as a playlist on this channel for free. So if you do want to brush up or learn some new stitches, that would be a great little resource. It was lovely. My friend Catherine, K3N, who is here on YouTube. I say friend, we've never met, but I love her videos and just love her philosophy to slow stitch. It was lovely. She mentioned one of my videos when I did the Ainu running stitch as part of the stitch along. She mentioned that as part of the stitch along that she's hosting on her channel. So yeah, it was really, really nice. Just noticed a little moth. Hope it's not a little wool moth. We definitely don't want to welcome any of those in, but it's probably just a little summer moth. I'll go hunting it. It will no doubt come and fly around the lights. That's what moths do, isn't it? It's actually quite windy outside now after being pretty still today. And I'll just tap to make sure we're in focus. And then for the little antennas. Can't believe I was going to call them antlers. It's not a deer, Christine. It is a butterfly. I'm just going to do back stitch, and then I think I'll probably whip it. I think that's what I did on my other butterfly. Back stitch and then whip. And I'll do a little French knot for the little tops of the antennas. So I'll do my back stitch first, and then come over and do my French knot. Just do one round, I think will be fine. Hold it as I do my French knot, and then I'll come back up to next to where I had my back stitches, and I'll then just come down and put my thread through each of the 3 stitches I've done. I'll use the eye end of the needle just so it doesn't catch, like that. And then I'll anchor my thread back in down the bottom next to the first stitch in the little back stitch row, and then I'll head over to the other antenna and do the same there. So three stitches up as back stitches, so one forward, one coming back to the first stitch, and then one going forward, and then do a French knot, wrap and French knot, and then come back up next to there, and using the eye end go through the closest back stitch, and then through the next back stitch, and then through the next back stitch. There we go. Done. So we can tie that off, clip that out, and then we can move over to our heart. I might do a second knot. As I say, these threads are just that little bit more slippery. They're slippery little suckers. So just leave a bit of an end as well. So there we go. That is our very sweet little flutterby butterfly. So let's move over to where we had our clippy clips on. And in fact, I can probably, oh no, I'll leave that on there. That's okay. I was thinking, do I want to do anything with that bit up here? But no, I think we should be fine. I'll stitch from down this end, which will be better. Do we just want to tighten it a smidgeroo? So I think I'll use this lovely reddy pinky colour for the heart. The bit that I had in the needle, and then I thought that's where we could do a couple of little rosebuds to show you I can do them in the center just as a demonstration, which will show you I'm pretty sure it's the fly stitch. I always think of it as a Y because it looks like a Y when you anchor it down. But yeah, first we'll do our cross stitches all around. This one's a bit easier because you just go straight around. It's not like the butterfly where you need to think a bit about where you start. Again, I'm going to do them as I go just because that somehow works better for my brain. And as I say, there's no stitch police here. There's definitely, I'm sure there are, cross stitches out there, so you probably have your own methods, but this is sort of slow stitching in a cross stitch style as far as I see it. So it's definitely not going to win any awards for neat or miniature or fine cross stitch. But it's going to make a lovely piece to add to my hexagon match. And the world definitely needs more love in it, so let's send some love hearts out. Don't think we need to wait for Valentine's Day for that. I think we can send the love out into the world at any time at all. Managing to pull threads off this sheet. Yeah, as I say, I use a lot of old sheets, both decorative sheets that might like floral and other sheets, but also I save the plain white sheets. I also save old linens if I'm like harvesting a bit of embroidery from them. I save the rest of the linen. Hopefully we're still in focus. Also obviously got a knot or something going on underneath because it's not fully pulling through. Okay, am I going to have to fix that? Yes, I am. There we go. Fixed. That's the only problem with the hoop. It just makes fixing things on the back that little bit harder. I suppose if I wasn't videoing, I'd probably pull it out of the hoop and then fix it and then put it back, but it is what it is. And you could also definitely fill this design in with hearts all the way, sorry, not with hearts, with crosses all the way through. You could even put some 3 little X's in the middle, like little, the crosses that you put at the end of a letter, little kisses. I think we're going okay for time. I say that, and then the knotters of the universe, they have another idea, don't they? Why is it catching there? Oh, it's catching on the end. Silly thing. Okay. I quite like that these have an almost sort of, sketchy look to them. Almost like a little sort of stitch doodle in some ways, which I think will cover stitch doodling in a future week. Just trying to think, each week just kind of doing something a bit different, whether it's some new embroidery stitches, whether it's, like last time where I showed you how to make a sort of a easy applique flower. Just giving you lots of ideas. Hopefully, I thought it might get a bit boring to do the embroideries every single week, so that's why I'm trying to do a bit of a mix and match. And it keeps me excited too, because then, trying different things out myself. So I haven't really come from a tradition of doing like cross stitches. Some people come into slow stitching from cross stitching, some come in from quilting. I've always just been sort of an avid creator, so working with textiles and fibres is what feels wonderful to me. And I find it is a way that I can definitely express that artistic side of myself. Whereas painting and drawing, just not as confident with those. But as soon as I have thread and needle in hand, I find that it feels very freeing and feels good and feels, I do feel confident when I've got a needle and thread. Makes it actually hard to sort of contemplate other forms of art. But that's why I try and bring some of those other forms in, whether it is, yeah, stretching myself by doing stitch doodling, or using my Inktense and painting on fabric and fibres, or creating sort of three-dimensional like sculptural scenes, but using textiles and fibre. So I kind of like to see how far we can take textile and fibre art. I've got some really exciting projects on that side of things coming up as well. It's just yeah, finding the time to do everything and triaging some of them, because I've got some pieces that will need to go into exhibitions. So got an exhibition I think for February, which means I'm going to have to really get a wriggle on the piece for that. So I might give a bit of a preview at some stage of that. And then there's a winter exhibition, which will be quite a large scale piece that I'll be developing for that. But I wouldn't mind showing you yeah, the start of that soon, because it might be something that folks want to play a bit with at a smaller scale. Might even give you some interesting ideas for this project at a much smaller scale. So yeah, that's why I love sharing stuff, because I get so much inspiration from what others share, and all of the ideas just percolate around our heads, don't they? And then yeah, they come out in our needle and thread. And I'm such a visual person, so yeah, videos and photos, they're just such a great way for me to kind of get inspired. And they're a great record for me too of like techniques, because I did the stitch along where I showed you a different stitch each day. If I'm ever trying to remember how to do a stitch, I've got a really ready little resource to go back to, because so many of the stitch little demonstrations that are done on YouTube, they go through so fast that you just, yeah, it's really hard to see what they're actually doing. So because I yeah, wanted to do something a bit different with the stitch along, my videos are showing it at just nothing's fast forwarded, it's all at a normal pace, warts and all. When things don't go right or have to be sort of, yeah, fixed, it's all in the videos. Because I think you learn from when you see others sort of having little mishaps as well. That's part of the learning process. And also just knowing that stitching doesn't always go to plan. And that's okay. So then you stop being so hard on yourself, don't you, when you know that no one's perfect. Like all parts of life, no one is perfect. We're all just doing our best, aren't we? That's all we can ask of others. There we go. Okay, and so I am going to tie it off here. Here. Sorry if you can't see me doing the tying off, it is just the stand in the way. I will still leave it in the stand because I want to show you the little rosebud stitches before we get into doing some painterooing. So I'm going to use some of this very old, I don't even have a label for this one, it's just a thinnish perle thread, but actually I'll do that second. While I've got the bit of thread in here, I can use that to do a couple of French knots. I think probably won't get that many French knots out of it, but I may as well use what I've got. So I'll just scatter around some French knots in the center. And I'll just do single ones again. I feel like maybe I'm trying to pull through something there. I'm just going to redo my French knot and angle my needle in a different direction because I was getting some sort of weird resistance. There we go, that's better. I'll pop over here, do a French knot. Pop over here. And I'll probably end up doing some around the outside too because I think these end up quite cute. Hopefully you think so too once I've added the little green leaves and stem. Just do one more. One more up there. Do I come down? That might, maybe I'll do one over here. Don't want to do too many, but no, come back, do one here. And hopefully I can come down and do one down the bottom too. And not trying to make them particularly symmetrical, just trying to sort of, yeah, spread them around. Okay, so that will be enough to do of the French knots. And then we will do our greenery. I'll leave the thread a little bit longer on that one. Okay. So where did I put our green thread? There it is. So I'm going to thread it through there and put a knot in, and then I'm going to pop through next to one of my French knots, slightly sort of above the top of it, and you need to think which way you want your little rosebuds to go, or rosebud stems to go. And then I'm going to angle my needle through. It's probably easier not in a hoop for this, but I'll leave it in the hoop to show you. And I'm going to come through where my thread is, so it creates a little loop around the thread, and then I'm going to make a stitch down to create the stem of the flower. So it'll be like little leaves up around your rosebud. I might bring you down a smidgeroo closer just so you can hopefully see a bit better, because this is quite fine. I'll then come down and do the next one. So then on the other side, and angling my needle through to sort of just a bit below where the rosebud is, and bringing it through, so I've got a loop of thread that I'm creating, and then coming down and putting a little anchoring thready stitch in, and I can come down here. And it doesn't matter that your rosebuds are different sizes. So yeah, just trying to come just below where your rosebud is, but you can do it really however you want. Just going to give that lovely sense of a whole lot of little rose buds with their stems. And I think it's fun to kind of combine the cross stitchy and a slow stitch style with some other little sort of fun slow stitches. Just gives these pieces that really sort of organic feel to them. And coming over there, and then we can pop over here. You make your stems as long or short as you like. And yeah, I'll probably come in around the heart as well. I'll measure out where my hexagon kind of finishes, and then I'll put some more around. I think I might even, oh no, I think I'm happy with how many are in the heart. So yeah, that's how they look. Just make sure it's looking okay. I get a funny sort of shady angle from where I'm sitting. So we can take that out of the hooperoo. I'll just tie that off on the back. That's what the back looks like. And these will be turned into little hexagons, which I'll then probably sit this butterfly one in the middle of this fabric, and then I'll find another fabric to make the backing of the larger hexagon for this one. But hopefully you enjoyed that. Now I'm going to move on to showing you painting on fabric, and how you can, if you've got any of this sort of like embossed fabric, but even if you've just got regular sheets. In fact, I've been curious to try what would happen drawing with the friction marker, and then either removing it before you paint or removing it after you paint, and whether it does actually, and maybe actually, let's stop being curious. Let's see if we can do a little practice run here. let's satisfy Christine's curiosity and show you at the same time. So I've got some water, which I'm surprised I haven't actually spilt as yet, and I've got my little paintbrushy thing. I'll bring you just up again. This is some of the paper I was painting on when I did my other, or card that I was painting on when I did my other ones. So I might use that again because I don't actually mind the prints that it's making on it, or maybe I'll even use the other side today. So what I usually do is fully, actually I shouldn't have done that on this one because I wanted to do my little test of what happens with the friction marker. So let's take another bit of fabric to test. So I'll draw a flower with friction marker. So let's just say that's our flower on this one, and then I'll do another flower on the other one. Okay, so I don't know if this is going to make any difference at all to the painting. So with one of them, I think I will remove it with my iron before I paint it. Let's see if we are going to get any heat. This probably hasn't been heating, so it might take a moment to do the removing. Come on, iron. It says that it should be on, but no, it's, oh, there it goes. It's removed it now. It was just taking a moment to heat up. And then let's paint that one and see what happens. So I'll just need to get a bit more because I haven't wetted this down like I normally would, but it's really just a bit of an experiment. So I'll need to just get a bit more water into it. Just want to dissolve that bit that was came on a bit thicker. So we'll just see if anything comes back when we iron that in a moment, and then let's just, with this side, I'll wet it down first of all, and then I'll use the same colour just because I've got that there already. So just wondering, have I got, yeah, I can use this to iron over just so I don't get sort of paintiness on my iron. A little bit's going to come through, but that will be fine. Just want to see whether we get any sense of any of designs coming back from the friction marker. I was just curious, so I thought, why not give it a go? Yeah, I don't think we're going to see anything, but I'll be interested when it dries. I'll report back in the group if it does actually yield anything in particular. But I know definitely on this fabric, which has the embossed design, oops, just turned my light off, it will give us some great effects with the paint. So I'll do this bigger piece this time. I'll lay my cardboard out so I don't get paintiness, and I will do the technique where I wet it all down first because that way the colours just travel nicely and give that sort of watercolour effect. So I'm just going to submerge my fabric in here and then give it a bit of a squeeze out so that it's just moist but not too damp. Don't worry about the wetness on the cardboard, that's okay. And then I'll get my colours. I've got two different lots of the Inktense blocks. I've got the big set. Let me just show you what it looks like on the front in terms of the big set. So Derwent Inktense blocks, but you can also get pencils and you can also get a palette of it as well. Have a look if you can find any secondhand. I have seen some around secondhand. I got this as a Christmas gift a few years back, and I've made really good use out of it. So then I just pick up some of the colour. I keep my water close at hand, and if I want to kind of dilute it a bit, I can do that. But then I just sort of move around the piece. I'm actually wondering if there's a bit of glue or something under here. Was it just that's weird, or did it just not get wet? Oh no, maybe it just hadn't got wet when I wetted it down. I was just wondering why the colour wasn't sort of travelling across it. And then with this particular, actually I don't think I'd fully wetted all of the fabric, but that's okay. We'll be able to wet it down as we go. And so I just pick up yeah, you can do it many ways. You could try and sort of paint individual elements, but I just quite like making this more sort of splotchy colour, where you then start with some colours and then mix other ones into the piece. If it's not travelling well, I do just sort of add a bit of moisture, and then I can come in maybe like with a blue. And so when they're wet and travelling like this, if they do meet, they'll start to sort of mix a bit in colour. Once the Inktense dries, you can come in with other colours and it won't then sort of reactivate and mix. But while it's wet like this, it will sort of, travel a bit. But I do find it's best if you want to get that sort of, travelling watercolory effect. It is best to make sure your piece is nicely wetted down. I probably didn't consistently enough wet it, but I can add more wetness just with my brush and my sort of water container, because I don't think I wet this end nearly enough. That's okay, we'll get there. But I just love how it brings out that that underlying design in a way that just otherwise wouldn't as much be there. And then we can pick a nice pinky colour. I think I definitely have my favourites in this this set of paints. I can kind of see the ones that I keep going back to because they're sort of getting a bit more worn down. But I just love how versatile they are, and the fact that I can use them on fabrics and textiles and threads, fibres, lots of possibilities. And for me, with the sort of way I use them, like the pencils wouldn't have been as useful, because I'm really just wanting to use them like a paint palette. Probably the palette would have been fine as well, but the blocks you definitely get a lot more sort of a lot more bang for your value. You can put sort of whatever colours you want anywhere. I've probably gone a tiny bit overboard with the pinkies, but doesn't really matter. It's just a bit of a demonstration of how it all goes. Got a few minutes left before we hit that sort of hour mark. I'll just swap over to my other palette, which has the sort of greeny colours and some turquoises and things, because they might be nice to add a bit of that in. So I might just come in with those over some of the areas that I haven't been so far. But as you can see, they don't sort of go into those really dirty colours, even where they're kind of meeting up. So yeah, it works. I do find they work quite well. So yeah, just bringing the green in to where we've got some of the gaps. Green there. And yeah, I'll just come back in at the end and when this video is finished, and just sort of finish filling in any of the bits. But hopefully that's given you a bit of a sense. It will definitely dry lighter than it is here, just like the other ones. Yeah, were definitely more intense when I was painting them, so that's why I don't mind having the more intense colours to start with. I just make sure that I've sort of fully activated all of the pigment with water, and that everything is sort of properly soaked down. Come back in with maybe a bit of a different turquoise in. Yeah, that's more of a turquoise colour. I'm not sure if you can just see that over that side. Might bring a bit of that turquoise in here, down here. Yeah, it's just fun, kind of, just playing, adding things in, letting them meld a little bit. I think I want to go back to some more. What colour do I want there? Down there, actually. I think I might want that pinky colour I was using. A bit of that down there, and then maybe a bit of green. And with the blocks, I just let them dry afterwards to make sure they don't stay soggy. So I just leave them out till they've sort of dried in hot weather they dry pretty fast. I'll put a bit more yellow over here. Don't think I'd wetted down this end enough, but that's okay. We'll get there. And what do I want? Maybe some green. Again, it's gone on a bit strong because I hadn't wetted that down quite enough, but that's okay. And you can see there's a bit of melding of that pink and green there that's gone a little bit murky, but it's not too bad. Just had that moth land, so I'm just going to get rid of that moth in case it is a moth that's trying to nibble fabrics or anything. I always freeze or anything, any threads and things coming into the house. So yeah, that is the painted fabric. I'll just bring it down so you can see it a bit closer up. And I do love the designs that it kind of puts on the cardboard underneath. So I'll be using that in some future card making. So I'll let you go because we have hit the hour mark. But hopefully you've enjoyed today's video. Hopefully it's given you lots of fun ideas to think about and adapt. And I look forward to chatting to you soon. Bye everyone.